Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. As we are finishing up our meet and greet, I'm Angela, and I'm going to bring our tithe and offering message today. But for those of you that have heard me speak before, we want to go through some words that we're going to take out of our vocabulary. Is that good? Can we do that? All right. Snow is not one of them, right, unless you go south for the winter. But one is we never want to say the word B-R-O-K-E, right? We don't want to say that word. We want to say coming up on the other side when it comes to our finances, right? Coming up on the other side. Another day, yeah, we all know that, unfortunately. So think about something else to replace that with, anything. And then spend, instead of spend money, we want to say circulate money, right? Because what happens when we circulate it? Comes back to us. And then instead of save, what does that insinuate when we're saving money? That we're going to need it for something usually not great. So instead of saying save, say you're accumulating money, right? And then a new one today is, this is going to be a tricky one. When you say, I'm good, right? Have we ever heard any stories, any success stories of people that went from good to great? Not really, right? We hear stories of people like Andrew Carnegie. He worked at a cotton mill, and then he was had a steel empire. J.K. Rowling, poverty, rejection to a billionaire author. Oprah, personal trauma, poverty to, obviously we don't even need to say her last name, right? But I was hearing a story about Oprah. She was 4 years old, and she was watching her grandma boil clothes, because that's how they clean their clothes, before they had washers and dryers. And she said, not in a way that I thought I was better than my family or my grandma, but she said she knew something was in her. She just knew it. And when her grandma said, learn this, Oprah, you're going to have to do this one day, in her mind she said, no, I won't. I will not be, having the life that you're having. So I know we all feel here that something's in us, right? So Psalms 89, 30 through 37 says, that we have a covenant. And as believers, we reap those benefits of the covenant. So one of those is God teaches us about tithes, offerings, and resources. So what I want to share with you today literally is a pretty special day for me. My grandma, unfortunately, passed away December 20th last year. She was 99. Today would have been her 100th birthday. So they're still doing a little celebration at the nursing home that she was at. But here's what I'm so impressed by. She and my grandpa, who died 30 years prior, left a legacy of finances to her children and her children's children. And so knowing that and understanding what my grandpa did to set that up, I just continue learning so much, from that. But God is our creator, so we're going to talk about tithes and offerings, but also resources. So in 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7, talked about the poor widow facing debt and threat of losing her sons to slavery. So what was she told to do? Go get something of value. She said, I have nothing of value. So she went home reluctantly, found that little bottle, right? That little bottle of oil. Then what was she told to do? To go ask her community for help. How many of us, are afraid to ask, right? Ask for that help. Well, then she got all of the vessels, and then what did God do with those, right? What did Jesus do? He created a miracle. So we want to make sure that we're using our resources in community, because what are we taught? Kind of just to do it by ourselves? No, there's so many resources out here in the community that we have at our disposal. We just have to do what? Ask. So last story I'll leave you with here is Mrs. Fields, not the Marshall Fields lady, but the Cookie family. They donate billions of dollars. I think they were the number one-time giver of like $430 billion to Northwestern University in Chicago. Well, one time she donated to another school, and it was in the paper. It was in the magazine that Mrs. Fields donated $1 million to this other school, not Northwestern. So the people from Northwestern called her and said, why did you donate to that school when you've been donating here for years? And she just said, they asked. They called me and asked. So, right, how much more do we know the covenant and what God has for us if we just do what? We just ask. So we know that a tithe is 10% or whatever you believe. Ask God, what is that for you? And then the offering, even more important to ask, because that is not as concrete. Ask what your offering should be, right? Because that's where your spiritual blessings come in. And then resources. So tithe, offering, and then put it into action so you have the resources to give. So we have 4 ways to give here at Bay Valley. As you know, we make it very convenient. So don't miss out on your blessings. Give with a grateful heart. All right? And so we have some announcements.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us today here at Bay Valley Christian Church. If it's your first time with us today, we just want to welcome you. Be sure to fill out a Connect card located under the seat in front of you and turn it into a team member in the back after service. Also, be sure to download our app. This is a way for us to, connect with you and let you know what not to miss out on. Want to take the next step? Becoming a member is becoming part of the Bay Valley family. Come and grow with us through relationship and discipleship. Sign up online or at the Connect booth for our next membership class that will take place on February 16th following the 11 a.m. service. Men, our 3rd annual Wild Game Dinner is soon approaching. Go to our app or website for more information. You can even purchase a ticket at the Connect booth or through the men's ministry. Baptism is a way to publicly proclaim your decision to follow Jesus. If you've made the decision to follow Christ, baptism is one of the most meaningful next steps you can take. Our next date for baptisms will be on March 23rd at either of our morning services. If you want to be baptized, sign up through our app, our website, or stop by the Connect booth. Gather 25 is a gathering of the global church with live streaming from around the world, mobilizing the 2.5 billion Christians worldwide to reach the 5.5 billion people on the planet who don't know Jesus. The purpose is for every person to walk away with a clear understanding that Jesus has called and equipped them to reach their friends, classmates, co-workers, and neighbors right where they are. The church will open at 7:30 p.m. on Friday the 28th, streaming the Dallas event. For more information about upcoming events, be sure to download our app or visit us online at bayvalleycc.org.
All right, Bay Valley, it is my pleasure to introduce to you your guest speaker for today. Oh, yeah, that's me. No introduction needed. Hey, if you guys didn't already get the message in worship music this morning, I just got to go, I guess, follow up and go back to that. The spiritual message was already sent. I hope you received it, because I know I was moved. Sometimes I get up there and I get to moving around. It's like my feet just don't want to stay still. I can't. It's like fire shut up in my bones. You might have heard that somewhere. So, title of my message today, I'm old school. I don't do laptop. I do paper. I like to feel it, touch it, go back to it. Some of you can relate. Some of you are laughing at me. The screen-agers right now are laughing at me. So I call my daughter because the screen. The color of love. So pastor reaches out to me and he says, hey, Jeff, I need you to cover a Sunday for me. Can you do that? I'm like, oh, he's ready? Yeah, sure, I can do that. I goes, what's the subject and topic matter? He says to me, I want you to preach on God's love. It's Valentine's weekend, but more importantly, how do we communicate love? And I kid you not, this is what it looked like on the other side. Are you kidding me? No. Sorry, cameraman, I move around a lot. I'm like, no. In my head, I'm screaming it. I don't do the whole mushy-gushy, love-sensitive, like my Jesus is the Lion of Judah. He like rides on a white horse. He's got a bow in his hand, fire in his eyes, a tongue like a sword, and his name's tatted. His robe's dipped in blood, and he's like conquering. Revelation, it's there. Didn't make that one up. And I'm like, really? The love thing? All right, here we go, Lord. Drop my armor, wipe off my war paint, get soft and sensitive with them, a little vulnerable with them. Of course, at the risk of looking unmanly and weak. It's my thought. Well, let me tell you guys, 2 things I've learned in my long life that God's brought me to a place, first of all, in my life where I really could care less about what man thinks of me anymore. Only what he does. And the second thing is that I have never been more manly or embraced the fullness of how God designed me as a man as when I've kneeled before him in reverence and obedience and learned how to lead my family and let him lead me. That should get more than one amen, men. So I'm going to do my best, people, to open your eyes a little wider on how much he loves us and how much more we should love him. One of the synonyms I want to start you out with of love is to hold dear, to treasure, to value, to prize, to cherish, and to adore. And if you really love something, you'll go through whatever it is to pursue it. I remember my first girlfriend when I got a car, 16, and I literally would drive 2 hours after work just to sit with her and be with her because I loved her. I would walk through whatever, man. I would go, I would drive, I'd burn the gas and never think twice about it, hoping that maybe she even just gave me a kiss at the door when I left because I loved her. I was pursuing her. So let's put that in perspective. Valentine's weekend. Got to put this little disclaimer out there. Include myself in it. She's not here yet. Fellas, if you drop the ball on Valentine's Day, might I suggest take her to dinner. And when you get home, get on the couch, on the blanket and all, snuggle up to her and watch one of these 3 movies with her without falling asleep. Pretty Woman, The Notebook, or P.S. I Love You. And you might salvage romance for the weekend. Ladies, if I'm right, let me hear a oh yeah. Take notes, fellas. Maybe your gal's more into reading. Here's a good one for you. I got a recommendation for you. Not only the reading part, she'll be impressed that you're reading. But I got a recommendation for a book for you. This book's got action. This book's got adventure. It's got romantic interest. And even for us guys, it's got this big climactic fight scene at the end against a red dragon. And it is a happy ending, just to let you know. It is still on the bestsellers list. It is still the most published book in the world. You already know what I'm going to say. It is the Holy Bible. Ding, 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 ding. Jeopardy gets the square. Truly, if you really sat down and really broke it down, like Valentine's Day, every now and then I go to the Song of Solomon, and it's pretty mushy-gushy in there, and you really impress your girl with. If you don't really have the words, just go there and start reading some of that. I'll direct you fellas to there. You know, when I started doing my research for this message a few weeks ago, first thing that came to my mind was just the color. Red, to me, always represented love. And when I researched it, actually, it is the most associated color for the word love in all of the world. And which to me just makes another super powerful point that at the cross that Jesus hung from for us, the color that ran down it was red. Love ran down the cross. Love is what held him to the cross. Make no bones about it. He could have pulled the stakes out and jumped off there any time he wanted. But his love was too strong for us. John 3:16, you know it. Never get tired of hearing it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish. You know, I'm a hunter and a fisherman, and one of my favorite times to bow hunt is in the wintertime. I just love the snow. It's beautiful out there. And I can think of times where I've shot a deer, and I get down and I start tracking it. And as I track this red crimson color against the white background, I'm immediately, God just brings me back to someplace else I've seen red against a white background that denoted the words that Jesus spoke in the Bible. Red words on a white page. written in love. Interestingly, as I dug through my message and digging out, I found out that diamonds were the most gifted jewel on Valentine's Day. Don't let my wife hear that one. And when I pondered that thought that diamonds were, God says to me, sometimes he speaks right on the dot, and sometimes I don't get it till a couple weeks, but that moment he spoke to me and he said, Jeff, I am the diamond. And just like a diamond, when you hold it in the light and you turn it, all the little facets of the diamond reflect a light. And I'm just like, wow, it's like downloading to me. And God tells me, I am the diamond. And so it is as God turns the world, we are the many facets of him. And when we reflect that light and that love, just like a real diamond, it is a beautiful thing to behold. I'm a visual guy. Sometimes I need to see it in a visual aspect like that. You know, things I can relate with and see. I'm simple in my thinking. As he knows. Some of you know, have hung out with me long enough. But this was just a deep visual to me, that all the facets of a diamond is what makes the diamond so beautiful. And one of the ways, getting the communication aspect, one of the ways that we show love to God is living a life that reflects his teachings, living a life that reflects his kind of love, forgiving others as he have forgave you is an act of love. It's reflected in John 21 when Jesus asks Peter, Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Jeff, do you love me? Go to the homeless shelter. Help somebody. Help your neighbor. Feed my sheep. He puts that question just so you guys know. You can put your name and Peter's name in that all day long. Every one of us. When he asks you something, do you love me? Paul, Jim, Sherry, Taylor, Kelly, Nikki, feed my sheep. Love one another. Take care of one another. Feed one another. That's a reflection. If you really want to say you love God, well, then your actions will show it. And two, they don't, you heard the scripture, don't let your right hand see what your left hand's doing. You don't have to go and make a big fanfare about it. Our Father in heaven who sees everything will see that and reward you in due time. So if you want to slip off an extra 40 to somebody that's hurting anonymously, don't worry, you'll get the credit for it. Might not be on your tax form, but you will get credit for it. I assure you. I cannot wait to redeem my points when I get to heaven. It's already bought and paid for. I don't need to bring no points, in case you didn't know that. And the other thing is, too, I've heard it said that imitation is the greatest form of, praise and worship. And when we do that, we're imitating Christ's character and honoring him. And what I find is really ironic when I really stop and think about it. You realize, I say a devil, do you realize you're imitating God all the time? The devil is always imitating God. Whatever God does, he tries to mask, mirror it, and do the same thing. I'm I don't know if Satan's that simple, you don't understand. You're really honoring God. You're really praising him. You're really giving him glory because you are constantly operating him. Get a new game. Get something fresh because everything you're doing is just imitating the Lord. And the Lord sitting back smiling and said, Jeff, you think I didn't already know that? There's a lot of deep things that I don't understand that sometimes God will just bring a little bit to my surface and I just sit back and it just blows my mind away. I never thought about that before. The devil actually imitates God. Wouldn't that beset us to imitate God even more? And that just blew me away. And then there's the love languages. Praise, prayer, worship. What we did this morning, it didn't just reach the gates. It went down the street. It went through the doorway of the throne room. It went through the palace. It went to the throne room, and it went at the feet of God, who's sitting there in like sweet incense smelling. I love the smell of cigars because it's just like that black and mild, I just love the smell of pipe tobacco, and I'm thinking God must just sit there and our praises and our worship is coming to him. He's just sitting there like I love the smell of gunpowder in the morning, Chris, right? Like, he just must sit there. I always relate stuff to hunting and fishing. You notice that? I might get out there a little bit. Some people, it's gasoline. But the point is that our praise, our worship, and our hands raised up, the more we do it, the more God just sits there and just breathes you in. It's a very important thing. So when I come in, I said, and I was glad when they said, let's go to my house, my Father's house, and worship and praise. There should be a gladness before you even walk in the door. Not walk in the door and wait for them to pick you up. Now I'm getting a little fired up. I'm sorry, but it's a sensitive subject to me because I see it. We want to come in because we think that they're going to pump us up and make us feel good, or this guy's going to stand here and make me feel good about me. I'm sorry, but you're missing the thing that should happen on the other side of the door, and that is you should already be having this expectation, because if you really knew who God was, you know it already is happening, and you should get excited before you even walk into the house. I got a little straightforward with you there, but I'm sorry, that's the way he made me. But it's that seriousness. I am already joyful before my hand hits the door, and I'm happy I'm coming. Because everything I need is already in here. I just got to call it down in here. Well, I don't like that church. I don't feel the Spirit. I don't feel the heaven. Well, you know what? Church is you. It's not the four walls. It's not the seats. It's not the pastor. Church is you. If you ain't feeling it, you might want to start in the mirror before you point at this, them, or all these other things going on. You might want to just spin the mirror and look at your own self if you ain't feeling it. Maybe you ain't feeling it because you ain't been kneeling it. That just fresh off the press came to me right there. Somebody needed to hear it like that. I used to do a little rapping back in the day, but I ain't going to scare you now. My point is, and this isn't in my notes, because obviously somebody needs to hear this, because I always say when I'm sitting in my truck, Holy Spirit, if you got something outside of my notes that you want me to drop on it, just let it flow. I'll hold the microphone, but you do the talking. So that wasn't me. That's for somebody. If you're waiting for your joy to happen after you get inside the door, I suggest you start being happy on the outside of the door for what you got coming when you come in. You come in here, it's just to put the exclamation point on what you should already be having in your spirit and feeling and knowing. If you've spent some time with God, you will realize that his economy is not the world's economy. Am I right, my financial planner? God's economy does not work like the world's economy. Your thinking of how you're going to get your wealth is not the way that God does it. He loves bringing stuff out from left field because he loves confounding the wise with the simpleness of fools. To make the point that my economy is not your economy. My blessing, my thing, you don't even see it on your radar, Jeff, because it's way over here in your peripheral. But as you start to praise God, and you start to, God, I don't see it, I don't know it, but I'm just going to faith, all of a sudden, he'll start, as you're walking, you keep walking towards him, and he'll slowly start bringing it. First, you'll catch in your peripheral, like, oh man, like, that person just said something like, there might be somebody getting fired at this job that I'm going to. And the next thing you know, you're getting a call for an interview. And God's just like slow. You just keep your eye on God and keep praising him, even though you don't have the college background for it, that you shouldn't even be applying for this job. But you just keep praising God, and God just keeps bringing it. Not only did that guy get fired to make a job open for me, but now I'm going to this interview, and I'm rattling off these answers like, oh my gosh, that wasn't me thinking, because I'm not this smart. And the next thing you know, would you like a job? Do you follow me? That's the way it works, people. I had to step down off of this because I don't like being up here, because I just don't like being up here. I am no different than you. I go through it too, but man, I have learned some things. And I guess that's why I'm up here, because I have learned something in my 58 years. That keeping my eyes fixed on him is not only a love language, but it's something that will help me all the days of my life, all the days of my life. Going back to talking about prayer and praise, goes right straight to the throne room, right straight to the King. I love picturing Jesus always as the King. You guys want to give me a high five or a slap on the back? Hey, Jeff, that's great. You know what I do? This is what I picture. When the Romans used to go to war and they'd come back with a victory, the general would bring all this tribute, and he'd just walk up to the throne and he'd just lay all that tribute down, like, for your honor. When you give me a praise or a Jeff, that was great or whatever, I just come back, I feel like that general. I just walk over here, I'm like, there it is, Lord, for your honor. Stay humble like that, and he will esteem you always with men. You don't have to go around telling people how great you are. He will esteem you through the mouths of men. Men that don't even like you. We'll talk about what a good guy you are and how you are all this integrity, all because you walked like a man that God laid the path out for you to walk like. Quit putting these self-imposed levels and bars that we feel like we need to attain to be a man. God did not set any levels or bars for you to get to before you start looking or acting or are reflected as a man. And neither should we. That's the trick of the devil. He just says one thing, Jeff, keep your eye on me and keep walking forward. Keep your eyes out in the periphery. I'll be bringing something into you. And you'll walk right into it and go, oh my gosh, that was God. Gave you the example. Conquering King. That's who I serve. I know he's the lamb that was slain, but my Jesus that rose up out of the grave is a conquering King. How do I know that? Because he went to hell and he waged war by himself for 3 days, coming back to his Father's throne room and throwing Satan's crown on the pile of other previous self-thought kings. 31 of them, it says, that the Israelites conquered when they went into the promised land with God's power. 31 kings who thought they were kings were delivered. And God went to hell and waged a 3-day war and came back with another one to throw on the pile, showing his war wounds, scars on each hand, scarred in the foot, slash across the side. And he did it all for no other reason than love. Love of me and love of you. There I go again with my Jesus, the way I see Jesus. Gotta soften it up, Jeff. It's tough for me, guys. Another way we show love is to put down the distractions. I'm going to tell you right now, I really wrestled with this one, and some of y'all ain't going to like me to say this. Do I see this? I see you. Another way you show love is to put down your distractions. Give even 1 hour of your undivided attention and listen intently to what he's trying to say to you. Breaks my heart, and I'll be honest, this is personal. Just make it about me if you want to be mad. There's been times I've sat in this church and other churches, and I've looked across a congregation and I see people answering texts and smiling at whatever comes across the cell phone. And it saddens me in my heart. I know it must sadden him. Know that before there was Google, there was God. Before all your memories and personal information went into the cloud, it went into the cloud. And you to think that and I think of all the access of all this information that we have through Apple, and then I remembered that 2,000 years ago, through an apple, and the serpent did offer Eve the apple, and she did eat and offered it to Adam, which he did eat as well. And here we sit today with all this information, and we still can't figure it out. Isn't it kind of twisted when God revealed all that to me? The cloud, Google, God, the apple. I mean, you really have to sit back and just kind of like take that in. So I'm getting on a cell phone thing there. I'm going to go Forrest Gump on you right now and say, that's all I got to say about that. What you do with it, I'll let your heart work with it. this one's a touchy subject. I almost didn't go here because I still kind of harbor a little bit of daddy issues, my earthly daddy issues. My earthly father grew up in a generation that never spoke the words, I love you. Maybe some of you guys can relate. It's just, I think it was just a generational thing. I really do. It was always implied by the way that he provided for us. Women, I need you to know, if your man doesn't tell you all the time that he loves you and he's constantly not there breathing your air like you'd like him because he's out doing this and he's out doing that and he's out doing that, it's because he's showing his way that he loves you. And for some of us men, we just think it's implied. Do you not see me making sure that you're comfortable and you're sheltered and you have a nice car and you have food and the kids like for some men, that is their love language to tell you that, but it's never spoken, it's implied. So women, I need you to understand that before you get too hard on them. And men, oh, you thought you were going to get out on this one, didn't you? I was 33 years old the first time that I heard my earthly father say that he loved me. I went to the car lot to visit him because he owned a car lot. And as I did, I stopped and visited him. And as I was walking out the door and I grabbed the handle, I said, like I always do, love you, Pop. And before I made it halfway out the door, he said, love you too, son. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I literally turned around and looked at him and I said, what'd you say? And, of course, he regained himself in his gruffiness, said, you heard what I said. Come on, I'm busy. I got stuff I got to do. He wore a blue button-up shirt. He had gray slacks on, and there was a yellow piece of paper sitting on his desk. I knew it. I never doubted that he loved me. It was always implied, but there was something about hearing those words that struck me to my heart. And I literally got in the truck and I sat there and I wept at 33 years old because I heard my earthly father tell me from his own mouth that he loved me. Yet I knew all this, but there was something about hearing it. I can remember those details, the shirt, the paper, because it was that impactful to me. Fathers, tell your wife, tell your children, you love them. And like I said, it wasn't that I didn't think he loved me. It was just hearing him, because there's something about a word spoken that the ears hear it and then the heart perceives it. And I go all the way back to the beginning. God spoke things into existence. He didn't blink them in and he didn't imply them in. He spoke them into existence from the very beginning. And that just struck me so hard when my dad said that to me. And now I'm gonna share another little sad point. It wasn't until about maybe 10, 12 years ago, from my own mouth, that I said the words, Jesus, I love you. From my own mouth 10 or 12 years ago. And you know when it came in a complete moment of gratitude for him, that all that he had done for me. And you know what his instantaneous response to me was? I loved you first. It took me that long to tell Jesus to tell him the things that it took my father so long to tell him. Yet our first father had never heard those words from me. Prayer team, I'm going to ask you to come up here. Anybody that can stand up here for prayer. I'm really just feeling this. Guys, I'm really feeling itchy up here because I'm really feeling vulnerable, like I'm really opening up and giving you some stuff that I've really kind of hidden away and kept from myself and God. But I do that only as example because if it helps somebody in here. Donald, why don't you come on up for me, bud? Do what you do, ma'am. I want to say that with all heads bowed right now, I'm not going to ramble on today. I think you understand the true Valentine's Day was the day he hung on a cross for you, and the color red of blood ran down was the color of red for you. You know what you need to say, and I'm not going to make you say it, but I want to tell you something. With all heads bowed, maybe you've never asked God that you want his love. Maybe you've never invited him to speak to you to say, love me. Maybe you want to say, God, I want to accept you, and in my way, I want to say that I love you. If that's you, raise your hand up. I want you to know something. And I say this from my heart of hearts. God has wept tears for you because he loves you so much, and you've been resisting him for so much. And you're like almost you give yourself these labels that you won't believe it yourself, that he loves you so much. And there's nothing that he has for you but good. Nothing that he wants for you but good. So repeat after me. Dear Lord Jesus, come into my heart. Be my God. I am ready to receive your love, and I will follow you the days of my life. I love you, Daddy. Let's go to the ones that maybe know Jesus loves you, but you might have been quite a while since you even said the words, or maybe, like me in my younger years, you think it might make you look weak or unmanly. I lead a crew of 15 men and women at my shop, and I have learned the best way to teach them something is through demonstration. So right now, at the risk of being vulnerable to y'all, let me demonstrate what it looks like to say it. And then you can let me know later and talk to me and tell me if I look weak and vulnerable. Jesus, I love you. Daddy, I love you. I'm sorry it's taken so long for me to just be comfortable to say that. I'm asking you to stand to your feet right now. If you can't do it here, it's a tough thing to do, I'll be honest. Pride is a hard thing to put down. Come up, stand at the altar if you want to. Go home and say it if you want to in the quietness somewhere. Or right here as you're standing. Just close your eyes and bow your head. Even whisper it if you have to. Or maybe you just want something a little more and you've gotten yourself to a vulnerable state the Holy Spirit has, and you just want somebody to come up and pray with you, for you. They're here for that. I'm going to take a minute here and just go silent so I can quit talking and you can start. Prayer for you all and myself. Lord, I'm sorry for waiting to say the words I love you. But with all my heart, I do. You've always been my first father, and I am beyond words for how grateful I am that you have so cared, provided, and protected me and my family. Teach me, Father, how to love others, including myself, that the brilliance of your diamond be reflected off the facet of me. And again I say, Father, Daddy, Jesus, I so love you. Happy Valentine's Day. If anybody wants to come and stand up here, I will stand up here, pray with you, put a hand on you. But officially, this service is over.